access for the Google Meet, correct? Okay. Teams, Microsoft Teams. So I can't access that one. As I said, from today onwards, we are going to start with ADaMs. I will tell you one important thing.
Sir,
I don't
validations.
know why. I will tell you validation for both the STM and ADaMs together, so that it's going to be easy to understand. Because everything is going to come to CDISC guidelines. I will tell you.
Sir, my
We are
voice
going to
slow వస్తుంది సార్.
same problem for everybody.
అంటే
Yes, sir.
ఫ్యాన్
Yes, sir.
సౌండ్.
Yes, sir.
My voice is clear.
Yes, sir, audible.
Okay. Is it clear now? So before starting up that ADaMs, I want to tell you one important thing. Most of the students think that ADaMs is very difficult. ADaM is very difficult only because of one reason. Not very difficult. ADaMs is difficult because of only one reason. If you do not have a strong grip, if you do not have any grip on your SGDM, you are not confident about your SGDM, then ADaMs is going to be difficult. But if you have a sound knowledge, if you're confident enough about the SGDM skills, SGDM knowledge, and then ADaMs is going to be easy. Okay? So, most of the people, what they will do, they don't practice properly SGDM. So then they will complain about the ADaMs because if you don't have a proper SGDM skills in SGFS, of course, ADaMs is going to be very difficult. So please be careful from the starting. But when you compare with SGDM, ADaMs portion is very less. We are going to have only a few domains. If you practice it properly, definitely you can easily keep ADaMs in your resume. If you have an ADaMs in your resume, you are going to have more and more chances. Even though the job is only on SGDM, the role is only on SGDM. If you have an ADaM knowledge, so you are going to have a better chances. So please be careful, understand. If you couldn't able to understand, please let me know. And at some level, SGDM you can prepare on your own because we have any proper guidelines, SGDM guidelines, everything that we have, so that you can understand by reading. But ADaMs is not like that one. You need to have a real expertise to understand ADaMs. So from the starting onwards, try to understand it. When I give you some work, please finish it out that task so that ADaMs is going to be your advantage over other students. Now is it why my voice is clear now?
Yes, yes.
సార్ ఫ్యాన్ సౌండ్
No,
వస్తుంది
sir, it's
సార్, ఎయిర్
breaking the background noise.
డిస్టర్బెన్స్.
బ్యాక్గ్రౌండ్ నాయిస్ వస్తుంది సార్.
ఇప్పుడు ఓకేనండి దేవి, is it okay now?
ఓకే సార్.
ఓకే సార్. మీ బ్యాక్గ్రౌండ్ లో ఎయిర్ డిస్టర్బెన్స్ వినిపిస్తుంది సార్.
No. When we conduct a clinical trial, from the subject we collected the data. I told you we collect the data from the subject onto the CRF sheet. So that means in the real time, 80 to 90% of the data we can find on the CRF sheet. Now there is a department called CDM. Now the CDM department will enter the data from the CRF sheet into database. There are going to be different databases like Clinical, Oracle, Rave. These are the very famous and most familiar datasets everybody uses. So that means in the clinical trial, clinical research, we can find the data in the database. Now I told you there is a separate team called data extraction team. This data extraction team will extract the data from the database and they will create the raw data sets. And these raw data sets are going to be in the SAS format. Now, whatever the raw data sets that we have, now we know that one we have created these by using these raw data sets, by using SDDM-IZ guidelines, by using our SAS skills. What we have done, we created SDDM data sets. Remember, we have created SDDM domains or we have created SDDM data sets. This is what we have done so far. Now, these SDDM 90 to 95% of the time, these SDDM data sets are in character data type. These SDDM data sets are in character data type. So which is unfit for arithmetic operations. Okay, whatever the data that we have collected in the clinical trial, yes, we have to submit all the data in the form of SDDM data sets. But these SDDM data sets are no good for analysis. At the end of the day, what we have to do, we have to analyze the data and we have to submit that analysis report. Now the statistical team, they will understand by seeing the report whether the drug is safe or not, whether drug is effective or not. By seeing the analysis report only, they can understand. So that means ultimately, when we have a clinical data, what we should do, you have to analyze it. But whatever the SDM datasets that we have, these datasets are unfit for data analysis. So we cannot use this dataset, SDM datasets for analysis. But ultimately, what we should do, we should do the data analysis. And when you're doing the analysis, of course, we'll get the report and we have to submit the report to FDA. Now, since these SDM datasets are unfit for analysis, what we should do, we should create an intermediate data set to do analysis. So that those intermediate datasets are good enough, by using those intermediate datasets, we can do the data analysis. And those intermediate datasets are called analysis datasets. Why? Because we are going to use those datasets for analysis purpose. That's why those datasets are called analysis datasets. That means whatever the SGDM datasets that we have, since we cannot use those datasets for analysis purpose, to do analysis, we are going to create some intermediate datasets. Those datasets are called analysis datasets. Okay? How to create these analysis datasets? And by the way, how we can define an analysis dataset? An analysis dataset is a dataset that we use for analysis. Now, how to create these analysis datasets? Now, to create these analysis datasets, now CDISC is proposing certain guidelines. Those guidelines are called ADaM. We are going to create an analysis datasets by using a concept called ADaMs. By the way, what is the full form of ADaM? Analysis data models. That means to create these datasets, CDISC has proposed certain models, and those models are called ADaMs. So now how we can define ADaM? ADaM means analysis data models. And by the way, when writing an ADaM, A and B should be capital letter. A again, third A should be small letter. It should be small letter, and again you should have a capital letter. So those are called analysis data models. But so that means we are going to have SGDM domains, SGDM datasets. From the SGDM datasets, what we should create now? We should create ADaM datasets. Now, that means we should create analysis datasets. Okay. To create that analysis datasets, they propose certain models, and those models are called ADaM. Now, how to create these ADaM datasets from SGDM datasets? To implement these models, now they propose certain guidelines. Those guidelines are called ADaM-IZ, Analysis Data Model Implementation Guidelines. In the same way, remember, when we have a clinical trial raw data, what we have done, we created some data sets to submit. And how we should create those data sets? And they proposed that information by proposing a guidelines called SGDM, Study Data Tabulation Model. How to implement this SGDM? To implement this SGDM, now they proposed guidelines. Those guidelines are called SGDM-IZ. అంటే మనం క్రియేట్ చేసే డేటాసెట్స్ SGDM అనుకుంటే వాటిని ఎలా ఇంప్లిమెంట్ చేయాలి అనే విషయాన్ని how they given that one? They had given that information by using SGDM-IZ guidelines. So by following SGDM-IZ guidelines, we can convert raw data into SGDM datasets. In the same way, to create analysis datasets from SGDM, we have models. Those models are called ADaMs. To implement that, we have a guidelines that is called ADaM-IZ guidelines. ADaM-IZ guidelines. Now, what are the guidelines that we have? How to follow those guidelines? Okay, now in next few classes, we are going to discuss about what are those ADaM-IZ guidelines that we have, how to implement those guidelines to create analysis datasets. Okay, now, and now we have this ADaM. Right now, we have an ADaM version 2.1, and then we have ADaM-IZ version 1.2. So in the interview, they're going to ask you what is the version that you are using, what is ADaM-IZ version that you are using to create ADaM datasets. So we are using a version, ADaM-IZ version called 1.2. Remember, what is the SGDM-IZ version that we use? 3.2. And what is the SGDM version that we have? SGDM that we have in 2.1. To create this SGDM, we are using SGDM-IZ guidelines 3.2. In the same way, to create these ADaM datasets, we are using a version called SGDM-IZ 1.2. what we have this HTML 1.2, what information that we have. Next a few classes, we are going to discuss about that one. Understand this one? No. What is the most important thing? What is the central theme of ADaMS? By the way, what was the most important aspect of SDDM? Most important thing in SDDM, one important point in SDDM. If I ask you, what is the most important thing of an SDDM?
Tabulation.
Tabulation. Submitting the data in a form of a table. Now, the whole SDDM revolves around the observations which are collected from the subject. Observations collected from subject. Now, whatever the observations that you collected from the subject, if you have all the relevant observations, yes, we have to keep the relevant observation to a table. And in SDDM, we call the table as a domain. Since we are using SAS to create the domain, and we also call it as a data set. So to keep that information to a table, of course, we need to have any observations and we need to have any columns or variables. Now, in SDDM guidelines, we have information about those variables and how many observations we should have, what are the values we should have, what are the attributes that we have. We learned everything. So the central theme, the core of SDDM is collection of observations and submitting those observations of a subject. Now we submitted, right now we have an SDDM dataset. Now when we have an SDDM dataset, now I told you we have to do the data analysis, isn't it? But as I said, these SDDM datasets are unfit for analysis. So then what we should do, we should create one more dataset here. And those datasets are called, what we call it as an analysis datasets. To create the analysis dataset, we have an ADaM models. Now, what is the coreness or the most important aspect of ADaM? If I ask you, tell me in one point, what is an ADaM? Since just an ADaM is an intermediate data set between your SDDM collected data and your data analysis report. So since I couldn't able to do the analysis by using SDDM, I am creating some intermediate data sets. Now, these ADaM datasets should maintain traceability. Traceability is the most important concept of ADaMS. I will tell you one thing. So for example, I have an XYZ drug or ABC drug. And I believe that this drug is going to reduce the diabetes. Okay? Now, you did the data analysis and you proposed that analysis to the FDA or CDISC. Whoever used my drug, they came out of the diabetic problem. It is balancing the blood glucose level very much. It is keeping all the time, blood glucose level in very balanced state. If I say in this way, anybody is going to believe it. If I say my drug is going to work properly, are you going to believe in that?
Also.
Then to believe, what should I do? To believe, what should I do? I should show the proof, isn't it? How we can show the proof? Now I came to a conclusion. I told you my drug is really working properly. And are you going to believe? No. You will ask me, show me the proof. So that I'm going to show you the analysis report. I will show the analysis report. Okay? If I show you the analysis report, then they will ask you me, how we got this analysis report? From where you got this one? And then what you will show? I got this analysis report from, you will show me that ADaM data set. Okay, I used this ADaM data set to get this analysis report. So I analyzed the ADaM data set to get this report. Now you will ask me, from where you got this ADaM data set? And you will show me. So I got this from SDDM data set. Now I'm going to ask you, from where you got this SDDM data set? How you created this? From where you got the data into SDDM? And you are going to show me the raw data sets. isn't it? Because you created this SCDM from where? From the raw data set. And then I will ask you from where you got this raw data set, and you will show me I got this information from database. I extracted from the database. Now I will ask you a question, how you got into this database? And then you will show me the CRF sheet. From this CRF sheet, I collected this data, I entered the data into database. Now I will ask you, how you got this information in the CRF sheet? Now what you will do now? You will show me the instrument that you used to collect this report, this information. You are going to show me the instrument or the method that you used to capture this information onto the CRF sheet. Now, so far, we achieved up to this point. SGDM. From that instrument, we collected information into the CRF sheet. From the database, we entered the data into CRF sheet into database. From the database, we got the information to SGDM. Now, you are going to have analysis report. Now, whatever the ADaM dataset that you are creating, it should be a bridge between your SGDM dataset and your analysis report. If you miss a connection anywhere in between, nobody will trust you. Nobody will believe you. Understand this one? If you are missing anywhere, any connection between from the starting instrument to analysis of media, connection miss and it is not going. They are not going to believe in you. They are not going to trust you, and your application is going to get failed. Understand this one? Now that's why ADaM dataset must be a bridge between SGDM and analysis report. What and all the data we collect into the database, now we put all that information to SGDM datasets according to SGDM IC guidelines and CDISC guidelines. Right now we have the data in ADaM SGDM datasets, and in future I should do the analysis, but unfortunately I cannot use this for analysis. Now I'm going to create an ADaM. And this ADaM, the main important principle of ADaM is it should be a bridge between SGDM and analysis report. So that means whatever analysis report that we are going to have, it should represent the ADaM, and the ADaM dataset must represent SGDM. So the central theme or the main principle of ADaM dataset is the traceability. Traceability means we should show 100% trace from the origin of the data into the analysis report. Understand this one? So the central theme, main principle of SGDM is collection of observations from the subject and submitting that information in form of a table or a data set or domain. And the central principle or main principle of ADaM is collecting the information, maintaining the traceability between SGDM and between SGDM and analysis report. From the conclusion into the source instrument, we should not miss the connection anywhere. Understand this one? Now, to create SGDM dataset, we have a guidelines called SGDM IC. But now, to create ADaM dataset, what is the guideline? That was said, as I said, we have ADaM IC guidelines 1.2, but recently they divided these guidelines into 3 parts. Okay, so and majorly I will explain in the next class. But in ADaMs, we are going to have 3 different classes, and we can divide the total ADaM datasets into 3 important classes. The first one we are going to have an ADSL, and the second one we are going to have an BDS, and the third one we are going to have an OCCDS. These are the 3 important classifications that we have, like how we have interventions, events, findings. In the same way, in ADaMs we have 3 classes. And by the way, in the past we used to have only 2 classes, which is ADSL and ADaMs. But later, ADSL and BDS. But later, they divided BDS into again 2 classes. One is BDS, and the second one is called OCCDS, which means occurrence data structures. So ADSL is represented by only one domain, which is ADSL. In the BDS, we are going to have domains like ADLB, we are going to have domain called ADVS, we are going to have domain called ADEZ. So tell me where we can find LB domain, vital signs, VS and EZ domains in SGDM, where we can find findings, right? So from the findings domain, if you create an ADaM dataset, that is called as a BDS, basic data structure. And we are going to have an events called adverse events, medical history, and we have concomitant medication. Those are called occurrences. If we have that information, now we are going to create a data set called ADAE, ADCM, and ADMH. These three data sets comes under OCCDS. So if you want to keep 2 years ADaM experience, at least you should have ADSL, you should have ADLB, you should have ADVS, and at least you should have ADA. So if you want to keep 2 years experience, you should have at least 4 domains. In the next few classes, I'm going to explain all the guidelines. Then we are going to program for ADSL, ADLB, ADVS, and ADAE. This time we are going to enter the code by using specifications. By using the specifications, we are going to ADaM's code. Trust me, if you do practice properly, if you have a strong foundation in STDM, ADaM's is going to be fun. But I have seen most of the students, they get scared about the ADaM's because they are not confident enough in STDM. If you understand STDM, ADaM's is going to be easy than STDM. ADaM's is going to be much easier than STDM. Understand? Now, to explain ADSL, ADLB, ADS and BDS, we have one document which is called ADaM 1.2. ADaM SG 1.2. Okay. Now, they separated OCCDS recently, and for OCCDS, we have OCCDS 1.1. And recently, to explain in the BDS, we are going to have a concept called time to event, TTE. To explain the time to event, we have one more document called TTE 1.0, and that also important. But the TTE comes under efficacy data, not so important. Not so important is very important. But if you want to keep 2 years experience or 2.5 or something, you may not require efficacy. But if you keep efficacy also, it is going to be really helpful for you. So our focus is going to be ADaM as a 1.2, and of course I'm going to explain the OCCDS 1.1 also. If time permits, if you are interested, I'm going to explain time to event also. Okay, now ADaM's is going to take 2 weeks time to complete. Clear, everybody? So next 2 to 3 classes are going to be theoretical classes. I'm going to explain ADaM as a guidelines, ADSL variables, and then I'm going to explain the BDS variables. Then we are going to start writing the programming code by using specification for ADSL and for the BDS also, and even for OCCDS also. Understand this one?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm going to forward that ADaM IC guidelines into the WhatsApp group. Please find that for guidelines, and I'm going to forward that PPT that what I'm going to use in the class to explain ADaM IC guidelines. Please find the attachments and start reading that one once I've been completed with my explanation. Clear, everybody? Okay. So I'm going to start in the next class about ADaM's. No, when I do that, what you call SGDM. Okay, sorry. When I'm going to give some time when I write the program for ADSL or BDSL, you should complete those programming part. To do the programming part, you may require 1 or 2 days break. During that time, written down the leftover topics that we have in SGDM, validation, rhetoric, and SC and subject definition, subject decision. I will explain during that time. Okay? Okay. See you in the next class.
Okay, sir.